Hack the Entrepreneur is part of Rainmaker FM, the digital business podcast network. Find more great shows and education at rainmaker.fm. Today's episode of Hack the Entrepreneur is brought to you by Earth Class Mail. Earth Class Mail moves your snail mail to the cloud, giving you instant access 24/7 and integrates with the tools and services you use every day. You also get a real, professional address to publicly share with customers, business partners, and investors. Visit earthclassmail.com and you'll get your first month of service absolutely free when you sign up using offer code HACK. That's earthclassmail.com and use offer code HACK.
Welcome to Hack the Entrepreneur, the show which reveals the fears, habits, and inner battles behind big-name entrepreneurs and those on their way to joining them. Now here is your host, John Naster.
Hey, this is Hack the Entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm your host, John Naster, but you can call me Johnny. My guest today is an award-winning graphic designer, marketing consultant, and an entrepreneur. She started her entrepreneurial journey nearly 25 years ago when she founded Zurich Design, a company that provides small business owners award-winning print, image, and web design. Then in 2009, she founded Big Brand System, which teaches small business owners marketing strategy and design techniques that help them grow their business. In addition to all of this, she's also spent the past 2 years as Executive Vice President of Educational Products at Rainmaker Digital. Now, let's hack Pamela Wilson. Hack the Entrepreneur is sponsored by Citi Cards with Android Pay. How cool is it that we live in a world where you can use the same device to listen to Hack the Entrepreneur and buy your morning coffee, groceries, and more? And did I mention that it's a super fast way to pay? Just use your Citi Card with Android Pay at the register. Get in, get it, get going. Download the Android Pay app on Google Play or visit citi.com/Android Pay to get started. Android Pay is available for eligible Citi consumer credit and debit cards. We are back with another episode of Hack the Entrepreneur, and today we have a very, very special guest. Pamela, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. What do you say? Should we jump right into this?
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right. Pamela, I know you are a woman who wears a lot of hats, but right now we're talking to Pamela, the entrepreneur. So Pamela, as an entrepreneur, can you tell me what is the one thing that you do that you feel has been the biggest contributor to your successes so far?
Well, I feel like I have to give you a little bit of context because some people listening may not know much about me. So just to give you some context, I have been in marketing for almost 30 years. And I've been an entrepreneur for almost 25. So I'm about to hit these milestone anniversaries in just a few months. So, when I look back over that long career, I think the one secret for me has been being willing to kind of wade in a little bit too deep for my own personal comfort, to get in a little bit over my head and learn to swim in new waters. And I've done that over and over in my career and even in my personal life. When I was in high school, I applied and was accepted into an exchange student program. I went off to live in South America in Colombia for a full year. My Spanish was not very good when I got there. By the time I left, people thought I was Colombian. I mean, it was this crazy thing. I started my own business when I was 7 months pregnant, and I had never had my own business before. So that's another example of kind of wading in over my head, not really knowing what I was getting into, and then just kind of figuring it out once I got there. I moved back to South America and was there for about 5 years with my new business. I've moved all around the US. And then in 2010, I took this offline marketing design business online. So again, a whole new thing. I started writing for Copyblogger, which was incredibly intimidating for somebody who didn't consider herself a writer. And now I joined the team a couple of years ago, wasn't sure what that was going to entail, got myself into it. I'm writing a book right now. So there are lots of examples where I had no idea what to expect. I was a little bit afraid of what I would find once I got there, but I just kind of waded in. And I just think it's that willingness to be a beginner over and over again and to do something where you feel uncomfortable and just kind of feeling comfortable, feeling uncomfortable. That has really made a difference for me.
I love it. And it sounds like it's something that's kind of come innate to you because you started out young doing it, but you've probably had to push.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing about that is it was sort of innate, but I definitely had to push myself. But then, there's a feeling of it's kind of, we don't have a word in English for it, but it's kind of like nervousness and excitement at the same time, right? And you feel that feeling and you start to recognize it. Anytime you do something new where you feel like you're a little bit over your head, it's like, oh, there's that feeling again. It's that nervous excitement feeling, And so once you see that repeating over and over, you realize, okay, this is just a thing that happens. This is just how I feel when I'm a little bit over my head. And you almost start to welcome it.
Yeah, totally. And that idea of becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable is something that I enjoy to do and push. But sometimes, I guess, is the point to doing it? So when you do it somewhere, Pamela, like some aspect of your life or business, are you doing it to get into that sort of area and then master it? Or is it just to kind of see where it takes you next?
For me, it's usually to get into that area and master it. It's something I'm curious about. It's something I want to learn about, something I want to explore. But I usually want to achieve mastery in it, or as much mastery as I'm capable of achieving, because we can't all be masters at everything, right? So it's like, let me get in here and see how far I can take this. But it's usually with the goal of getting as good as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Because why do it otherwise, right?
Fair enough. And so you started your first business when you were 7 months pregnant.
Yes.
Could you sort of take us back to that? Because it seems like probably now looking back, it was like a defining moment, obviously, in your life. You've been at this now a long time. But usually there seems to be one of two thought processes going on. Either you just have this idea to make something huge in the world, or you simply just find you can't work for somebody else at that point, and so you want to do something on your own. Which, I mean, obviously being pregnant and then having a child is probably a reason you can't work for somebody at the time. So can you kind of take us back and like what side of the fence you were on and then how that sort of process went?
So I'm going to say something that every woman in your audience who has ever been a mom, they're just going to crack up laughing at this point. But I had this vision, and I think a lot of us have this vision, that I was going to put my new baby in a little porta crib next to my desk, and I was going to work on my home business. And so all the women are now laughing because, of course, that it doesn't happen that way at all. But that was the vision I had. I was like, I'm bringing this. My husband and I were bringing this new being into the world. He had a full-time job. I wasn't comfortable sending this brand new child off to childcare if I could help it. And I happened to have a career where if you could get a computer and a printer and you had a phone, you could basically work from your home. So I had that flexibility, and that's why I wanted to explore it. It was mostly because of my life circumstance.
Wow. And yeah, it's hard to have that baby just sitting there quietly beside you while you do this.
Well, he didn't end up being a quiet baby. So let's start with that. He just wasn't. I mean, I ended up having to hire a babysitter to come in a few days a week and just stay with him while I got some work done. And that, of course, trains you to be really good at just focusing completely, because you have like 3 hours to get something done. And you just turn everything else off and focus on what you have to do. So that was actually good training as well.
Yeah, constraint can really force you to focus and stay on task in the small windows you have to work.
Absolutely.
Rather than just, a big amorphous, well, I have all day to do nothing.
Exactly. Right, exactly.
So your ability to wade in a little too deep is your one thing that you told us, Pamela. Now, every expert out there in business talks about the 80-20 rule. So you're supposed to do 20% of the work, get 80% of the results, do what you're good at, and delegate the rest. Pamela, can you please tell me something that you're absolutely not good at in your business?
I think we can all get good at almost everything if we want to. And part of it is just not liking certain tasks. So for me, I do not enjoy doing things that are really repetitive and tedious. I had a design assistant that she and I have worked together for years and years. She now helps with the blog post images on Copyblogger, actually. So we're still working together. But I hired her, part-time as a contractor early on. And I remember one of the early jobs I had for her, I said, I'm really sorry, this job is kind of boring. It was something like processing a bunch of images in Photoshop and like sharpening them and resizing them or something. It was just a repetitive, tedious job. And she said, "Oh, I love those kinds of jobs. I just put on music and I get in the zone and I work through them." And I'm thinking, okay, you're never going away. I'm going to work with you forever, because that was the exact kind of job that I really did not enjoy doing. And she actually enjoyed it. So for me, it's been about always looking for jobs that are repetitive and, for me, maybe a little bit tedious. And I always look at those and think that is ripe for delegation. So I spend some time explaining the job to whoever I'm going to hand it off to. And I explain how to do the job, but I also try to take the time to explain why it's important, so they understand, the meaning of what they're doing, and they understand the role that this end product is going to play in the company or in the project that they're contributing to, because I think that's important. I think it's important for people to understand the meaning behind what they're doing. So I work through all that. There are always some misunderstandings. No matter how clearly you think you've explained something, there are always misunderstandings or questions. And I work through all that. And then I'm like free of the task that I found tedious. So that whole process is kind of amazing. It still amazes me.
Yeah. And do you process out sort of all aspects of your, like, as in like written processes for things in your business?
Most things end up in a Google document with like screenshots. And then sometimes I'll meet with a person and have a phone call just to work through things and to surface the questions that always end up coming up. But most things are like just a plain Google document. Every once in a while, if something is very complex, I'll do a screencast and show people on screen what they need to do. And then sometimes, for certain tasks, you can create kind of a template, and you hand over a template and you tell the person how to fill it in. So there are different ways to approach it, but I just try to give them as much upfront information as I can, try to sort of anticipate where I might not be clear and make sure I'm extra clear.
Right. And so you don't process out like tasks that you won't be delegating.
You mean?
I know some people that literally with the idea that as soon as you do like any sort of task within your business more than say 3 times, it's like, okay, this is going to have to be done over and over by either me or somebody in the future. So I'm just going to literally document this process and start working on the SOP of it.
I mean, the interesting thing is we do that a lot on the Copyblogger blog. When I first took over kind of managing the editorial team, which was early 2015, one of the things that I said is, look, I'm new in this position. Do we have written down anywhere like how a blog post is born on Copyblogger? And we did not. So that was one of the things that and actually Stephanie Flaxman developed it. I just kind of encouraged her to develop it, but we now have this master document that has all the short codes we use. It has all the information about how we insert images, and she keeps it updated. So I do think that's important because, we can't make ourselves so indispensable that if somebody is either on vacation or they leave the company or they're, hit by a bus, you need to be able to get that task done. So I do think for things like that, it's important. And it's interesting because I hadn't thought about it, but this book that I just finished writing, that I'm in the design phase on now, is kind of me documenting my process for creating content.
Oh, wow.
It's 250 pages worth of that, but it's basically because it's something I had to learn, as I was coming along in my career. The marketing that I did was not the writing piece, it was the visual piece and the strategy. So I would work with clients and say, let's figure out a strategy that will get you the attention that you need. But then when it came down to actually getting writing done, I brought in a copywriter. Or sometimes I worked with an organization that had a marketing department and they had writers on staff. But me providing the writing, that never happened because I just was not a writer, So when I brought my business online in 2010 and decided I wanted to use content marketing to reach the audience I wanted to reach, suddenly I had to write. I had to figure this out. So the book that I wrote is basically, this is the process I use. This is how I divide up the content to make it easier to produce. And this is how I come up with my ideas. It's kind of documenting that whole thing that I was able to teach myself.
Wow. That's cool. And as you say I didn't consider myself a writer, right? You just prefaced it with, I just finished a 250-page book.
I know. I know. And I'll tell you, John, it's funny. The first line in the book is, I'm not a writer. Wait, where are you going? Come back. Let me explain. Because it truly, and I say, like, I wasn't born a writer. I'm a writer now, obviously, because you're holding my book in your hands. So, and I'm a writer because of what I do. I'm writing on Copyblogger once a week. I'm managing one of the most important blogs in the world, So obviously now I'm a writer, but I made myself into a writer, and that's what I kind of documented in the book.
I love it. And I can understand the whole not considering yourself a writer. And yet I'm holding my book in my hand right now, and I find it really odd. But
yeah.
But it works. So I think a good place to sort of segue into projects, because obviously a new book is a huge project. So we can talk about that, or just a project within your company, or else within the company that you work within entrepreneurially.
Right.
But projects is a loose term, but I would love to know sort of what your process is, Pamela, whether it's like an internal process or a written process. But when an idea comes to you or is brought to you, how do you sort of sift through and determine that it's worth you and possibly a team's time, energy, and resources?
Interesting. Okay. So just to put the book into context, that was something I did on my weekends. So that has been a weekend project. It's not something I did for work. It's something I did on my own. But in terms of the job that I do inside Copyblogger, so I am managing the editorial team. Stephanie Flaxman is the person who does the lion's share of the work. She does a beautiful job. And I just we have a meeting once a week where we're setting up the editorial direction and deciding what post topics we're going to cover and what writers we'll bring in and things like that. And then I'm also managing our Authority content marketing training program. And I just finished this major overhaul of our certification program, which aims to help professional writers learn really high-level skills so that they can have more successful businesses, charge more for their work, bring in higher quality clients. And so I'll use that project as an example because that's the most recent one that I'm in the process of wrapping up right now. The certification program is a series of audios that were recorded by Brian Clark and Sonia Simone, and they're really good. Those two are very high-level writers, and they know their stuff. What I saw in that program, though, is, as you and I know, people learn in different ways. So audio is great. We have transcripts for everything. So if somebody prefers to read, they can read the transcripts, or they can do both. They can listen to the audio and read the transcript. But what I saw is I thought there was a place to have some supplemental materials that would help to kind of drive the concepts home that people were learning in the course. So I worked with Jet Williams, who's on staff at Rainmaker Digital as well. And we developed 12 different workbooks, checklists, handouts, worksheets. I mean, there are a variety of different things that take the lessons that are being taught in each module and then apply them in a way that somebody can sort of apply it to their own individual situation. It's a bunch of like editable PDFs, so you can download it and start typing right into it and really process what you're learning so that you can apply it. And that has been a great project. It seemed like it was worth doing because it was basically, the certification course was already a cake, and this was just putting icing on the cake. So it was a way to make the course more valuable and more effective. And that's always worth doing.
Right. And was that an assumption, or was that from data, like that people wanted to learn in other supplemental ways? Or was that like a gut feeling that you just kind of intuitively knew now that that was what needed to be done?
It's probably more gut feeling, only because I've been doing online education for a long time, both as a student and as a teacher. And what I find is when you give people information with different media types, they tend to learn it better. So I anticipate that not everyone who takes the course will download these workbooks and work through them. But for certain people who need that kind of tactile interaction with the material, they're going to be golden. I mean, I think they'll really, really help. So it was more of a gut feeling. I mean, we don't have data on, we don't do like a post-course survey, although you're giving me a good idea. So maybe we'll do that after this next session. But just to ask how the course could be improved.
Nice. And then to go back to the project of the book, you say it was just on the weekends, which, I mean, to most people, when they have a full-time job, they're running a business, they don't also decide to write a book on the weekends. So like, what was sort of your process, or what was the reasons or explanations you gave yourself to not only take on the project, but then also to just continually push through and see it through?
Well, the interesting thing is, I told you about this baby that, motivated me to start my business. So that baby is now 24 and a half. I have another baby who is 22, and they both are out of college and off on their own. So part of it is just that I don't have young kids at home. And writing a book has been a long time dream of mine. And I'm at this place in my life now where I have more time available to myself than I have had in many years. That time during the week is completely used. I have a more than full-time job at the moment, and it's completely used. So I knew I wanted to write a book. I knew I didn't want it to take forever because I have a low tolerance for boredom. So I wanted to be able to start it and finish it within a determined amount of time. And I read this book called The 12-Week Year. Have you heard of it?
I want to say I have, but I don't think so.
It's one of those books that just hit me at the time that I needed it. So the authors are Brian P. Moran and Michael Lennington. And what the book proposes is that instead of spreading your goals out over an entire year, that you treat a 12-week period as if it was a year. And you set yourself these deadlines every week that are as aggressive as maybe a deadline that you would be setting over a month. And you create this kind of sense of urgency around the project. And then you also build in some check-ins so that you can always see where you are. You can see if you're running behind. You actually grade your own progress. So they ask you to be very honest and say, 1 to 100, how did you do this week? And you can have bad weeks and good weeks, but one of the things that they say is as long as you are averaging 85% or more, you will probably finish your project. So I literally started a spreadsheet for this book, and I broke down how long I wanted the book to be, and I realized that I needed to write about 5,000 words every week. And then I started doing it every Saturday. I would write those words. Some weeks I would wake up early on Tuesday mornings and write on Tuesday mornings before I started my workday also. That was a day that I tended to not have meetings. So it was an easy day to fit in a little bit of work at the very beginning of the day. But I just got through it. I got that whole book written in 12 weeks and sent it off to the editor.
Wow. I love it. That's cool. The 12-week year. And so within 12 weeks, you started a book and finished it.
I did. And then, as you know, creating a book is a long process. So I sent it off to the editor, and then it came back from the editor, and then it went to the proofreader, and then it came back from the proofreader. And now it's being designed, and then it has to be adapted for Kindle. And of course, I had to make it complicated. I worked with an illustrator who's creating illustrations for every chapter. So I'm dropping those into place. I just got the finals on those yesterday. So it has been a lot of fun for me, though, because so much of my career up until this point has been publication design. So once I got the writing piece done, then it went into designing the actual publication. And that just felt like I was entering into my wheelhouse. I was like, oh, printing specifications and binding and inks and paper. And that felt very comfortable to me. So that part of it has been a lot of fun.
Right, but you don't like comfort. You like discomfort.
But the discomfort part for me was the writing of the book, because I'd never written anything that long before, and I'd never given myself that kind of aggressive writing deadline to get that much done. I use Scrivener, and Scrivener has this feature where you can set up a target, and it gives you literally a progress bar that shows you how close you are to that weekly goal and how many words you still need to write. And it's very motivating. It's like gamification of writing a book, Yeah,
it's pretty cool. And how long do you think of a break you'll take before taking on your next 12-week big project?
I'm actually in the middle of one right now. So it's actually, the system is kind of cool because it's designed that you can fit 4 of these into a year, and you have a week in between each 12-week segment, right? So there's a week 13 that you can use to review how it went and to sort of plan the next 12-week thing that you're going to do. So I'm trying to lose some pounds that I gained over last winter. So that's my 12-week now. And then I think in the fall, I'm probably going to dive right back into another book because I have an idea for one. So
wow, I love it. I love it. All right, Pamela, this has been a lot of fun. I want to wrap up on one final question for you. It's this idea I'm working with calling the entrepreneurial gap, meaning that there seems to be this gap sometimes that we live in as entrepreneurs, as dreamers. No matter what we accomplish or what we achieve in our careers, we never personally see ourselves as successful. Success always comes in 1 month when your book is launched, in 6 months when your next book is launched, in a year when you hit that revenue metric, whatever it happens to be. Yet we both know that right before you hit that, you're going to set bigger. As you just finished your first book, you're already thinking of the next book kind of thing. And so sometimes from the outside, we look very successful, but from ourselves, it's always coming, and we end up in this gap of never quite achieving it. So, Pamela, I would love it right now. You've been at this entrepreneurial thing a long time, and I would love it if you could look back, the highs, the lows, the wins, and the losses, but tell me how you feel about your career up until today.
It's so interesting because, I'm a little bit older than you are, and I've been at this for a long time. So one thing that I recognized years ago is that whole, the future holds my success, and my success is not now. It's going to happen later. I got off that train a long time ago because it was kind of making me crazy. And the thing that really helped with that is that I have been in a mastermind group for 12 years. The group members have shifted, but I've basically been in a mastermind group for 12 years. And one thing that group does at the beginning of every monthly meeting is we go around and you share your biggest success from the past month out loud to a group of your peers. And having done that for 12 years, it just makes you very aware that your overarching success is really a series of small victories. And when you take time to recognize those victories as you go along, it can be very helpful. It gets you out of that frustration mode where you feel like you're not making any progress. And the people in the group end up being almost like the caretakers of your professional history. So if there are times when you can't see the progress yourself, they'll be right there to point it out to you. It's like, well, you may feel like you didn't get anything done, but compared to where you were 3 months ago when you were talking about this thing, it seems like you've really done something. So I'm happy to say that actually that's not something I suffered too much from because of this. It's because of my mastermind group. But when I look back, I'm kind of astounded. I mean, I've had the weirdest, winding, surprising road of a career, but as I've said, I have this very low tolerance for boredom. So that's actually been perfect for me to have a career that's been kind of unusual and surprising and different and has lots of twists and turns.
I love it. I love it. And you're right. Like having people around you, because it's true, we can't always sort of see it for ourselves, right? Like you can't see your own progress, even though you are making it in probably most aspects of your life. I think we're too hard on ourselves.
Absolutely. It seems to be an entrepreneurial trait, you know?
It does. Yeah. And also, yeah. And I love the journey that you wouldn't have been able to plan all this stuff you've done in advance. You know what I mean? And you have to be kind of comfortable with that and that. So that's cool. All right, Pamela, this has been absolute blast. We've talked about your business in passing and we've talked about your new book, but could we now specifically tell the listener where to find out about your business and then maybe what this book's called?
It's interesting. So the best place to find me nowadays is on Copyblogger. Actually, I'm writing for Copyblogger once a week. And I'm, of course, doing, my best possible work there. So that's the best place is on the Copyblogger blog. But my own business is bigbrandsystem.com. And the book that's coming out is Master Content Marketing, a simple strategy to cure the blank page blues and attract a profitable audience. It's a mouthful.
Wow.
But yeah, those long taglines actually help your book to get found. So that's the one I came up with. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great resource. Brian Clark is writing the foreword, I'm very happy to say. So, and it should be available the beginning of October 2016.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We will link to it in the show notes once it comes out. Very cool. Big Brand System, as well as I'll find you on copyblogger.com/author, I believe, /Pamela-Wilson.
Wilson, right. Yeah, that's the best way.
Track you down. That will be all your work that you've done there on the blog. So we'll do that. So once again, Pamela, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today and for sharing so openly. And please just keep doing what you're doing because it is awesome and inspiring to watch.
Thank you so much, Sean. You too. I love listening to your show.
Pamela, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I really, truly enjoyed that. And thank you for sharing so openly. I really enjoyed the conversation. And I hope that you out there listening enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Pamela, I've got to work with on and off through Rainmaker, digital rainmaker.fm and writing for Copyblogger. And it's been a pleasure. And I've wanted to actually have her on the show for, I'm going to say like almost a year now. And so finally, I'm glad that we got to find the time together to sit down and have that conversation. And I'm assuming that you got as much out of it as I did because her 25 years of starting businesses has really, and now with content and education, her experience is really, I think, rich and insightful into sort of what it is we go through as entrepreneurs and as creators. So enjoying the conversation is one thing. Then I get to go back at this point, right? And listen again to the conversation. Because as I go back, I'm listening for that one thing. And when I went back through the conversation, it was easy to find that one thing that Pamela said. Did you get it? Did you hear it? Let's do it. Let's find the hack.
I hired her, part-time as a contractor early on. And I remember one of the early jobs I had for her, I said, I'm really sorry, this job is kind of boring. It was something like processing a bunch of images in Photoshop and like sharpening them and resizing them or something. It was just a repetitive, tedious job. And she said, oh, I love those kinds of jobs. I just put on music and I get in the zone and I work through them. And I'm thinking, okay, you're never going away. I'm going to work with you forever because that was the exact kind of job that I really did not enjoy doing. And she actually enjoyed it.
And that's the hack. Pamela. I love this. And I don't know if I'm taking this sort of, not out of context, but maybe extrapolating it too far, but this is perspective to me. And this is something that's absolutely key to our successes as entrepreneurs, as human beings in general. But it's that ability to realize that other people not only see things from a different perspective and think differently than us, but also that they enjoy and they dislike things completely different from us. So we think that things are dreadful. I think the tedious, boring, repetitive tasks are, just like you said, Pamela, tedious, repetitive, and boring. That's why we call them that. But to like the lady that you're talking about, it's what she completely loves. She puts the music on, just gets in the zone and goes for it and absolutely loves it. And it's that loving of what you're doing and finding the right people for those tasks. So when you need to hire somebody to do those repetitive tasks, and like whether it's data entry or it's creating artwork, whatever it happens to be, and you're not into it, don't find somebody that also isn't into it and try and just like push them bullheadedly through the task because it just has to be done. Find people who are really, really into that stuff. You will get such better work and such better results and just general happiness throughout your business. Whether they're contractors or employees, get people who love doing what it is they need to do. It's a really, really, really important thing to realize that everybody has these different skills. Everybody has different passions and things that they're into. Find those people. Trust me, it's the work that doesn't seem like work to us that we do the best. That's where we perform the best. That's where we get the best results. And those things are different amongst all of us. Don't try and hire people like you. I don't even know who you are and what you're hiring people for. But if you can't do it well because you're not into it, hire somebody different than you, no matter what the position. Focus on what their passions are and don't try to cram them into a square hole if they have like round passions in different things. Find what they're good at and fit them into that place in your business. Things will work much, much better. Pamela, thank you so very much. All right, that was a lot of fun. HackTheEntrepreneur.com is the website. Make sure to stop by, get onto the email list, and get my best work every Sunday. It's coming straight to you, straight at you, straight to you, let's say. All right, I hope you are enjoying the summer. Hope you're enjoying it as much as I have been. It's been a great one. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun to be coming back to you 3 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So get on the email list, hacktheentrepreneur.com. Hit reply to that first welcome email. It comes straight to me. I'd love to hear from you. Let's chat. Why not? All right. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for stopping by. I truly do appreciate it. And please, until next time, keep hacking the entrepreneur.